G'day, thanks for joining me. Tonight I'd like to talk about health. Before we get started, here's the disclaimer. I'm not a medical professional. This is not medical advice. This is my understanding as a simple layman who happens to have healed himself. What do I mean when I say I've healed myself? Well, I was on a lot of medication for a long time for supposedly incurable diseases, autoimmune disorders, and they seem to get worse. Well, it started with a back issue, so I had major back issues when I was 18, and that obviously involved a lot of medication, anti-inflammatories, painkillers, and tests and whatnot. And after a couple of years, they diagnosed me with rheumatoid arthritis of the spine, known as ankylosing spondylitis. As a young male, that was quite devastating, and it actually caused a lot of depression for me as well, being told that I have an incurable disease that will have to be managed with medication for the rest of my life. That all came on at the height of my sporting career. I used to do trampolining as a young man and a teenager. I was actually national champion in 17 plus synchronised men's trampolining, and went to New Zealand a couple of times, and we won. My partner and I won over at the New Zealand National Championships one year as well in the 17 plus men's synchronised trampolining event. And so all of these back problems started at the height of all of that. So it caused me to have to, leave that, and it caused me to lose work as well. And then, as I said, being told I'd be on medication for the rest of my life. Not fun. So a lot of mental problems, which exacerbated the health as well. Fast forward several years, I then started having a lot of gut issues, and was told that was originally diagnosed as ulcerative colitis, once again an autoimmune disorder, and then they actually changed that diagnosis after a year or so. They did another colonoscopy after some time of me being very unwell, being hospitalised and so on, and they determined that it was actually Crohn's disease, which was presenting in the region where ulcerative colitis normally shows up. So that's, I guess, where the confusion was. Call it whatever you like. To me, I had a back problem, and then I ended up with a gut problem, and I was told that these were incurable, and they had me on all sorts of medications. So it was, again, anti-inflammatories, painkillers for managing the pain, which only got worse and worse, and I had to take more and more of these painkillers. And they also had me on a drug called Humira, which is a immunosuppressant. So that was an injection that I had to take started off as every fortnight in my stomach. And then I absolutely hated being on all this medication, and I tried to stop. And within 3 months, I ended up back in hospital with very serious onset of symptoms. If anyone knows anybody with Crohn's, I'm not going to go into details, but it's not friendly. I lost a lot of weight, and was having a lot of trips to the bathroom. So back into hospital, IV steroids, and back onto anti-inflammatories, back onto the Humira injections. That was now upped to once a week, and then my doctor, my gastroenterologist, decided that I needed to have a booster dose because I'd had a big lapse period where I'd stopped taking it for months, and that obviously was making it harder for it to do what it needed to do, supposedly. and so he ordered he ordered 6 extra shots for me to take in 1 week, and then told me that probably in a month, and then weekly injections, and after about a month I'd probably need to take another 6 hit dose, and I was just like, I'm done. So I decided to quit again, even though it put me in hospital the time before that. I was told that the half-life of this drug was about 2.5 to 3 months, which coincides with when I'd first given it up, being hospitalised. By the 2.5 to 3 month period after I'd stopped taking it is when I ended up back in hospital on death's door essentially. Couldn't eat food without having major issues. I was in constant pain. Again, I won't go into the details. I'm sure you can look that up if you've never heard of Crohn's, but it's not friendly. Anyway, so I got to this point where I realised that humans are the only ones that sort of overthink things. Every animal in the animal kingdom knows what it needs to do when it's sick, and generally that is fasting. I'd tried fasting, which actually was part of what I gave up the time before. I started trying to do water fasts and just a couple of dry fasts for 24, 48 hours at a time, and it didn't seem to work. And so what I realised is that although I had never been hungry, I'd actually been starving myself for years. And when I say I'd never been hungry and I'd been starving myself, I meant of nutrients. So I was eating what they call the SAD diet, the standard American diet or the standard Australian diet, which is pretty much a Western diet, which is very, very high calorie, low nutrient foods. And so I flipped that on its head. I went high nutrient, low calorie. What's high nutrient, low calorie? Fruit. So I did a fruit fast. So I didn't stop eating, actually. All I ate was fruit. And when I say all I ate was fruit, that's a little bit of a lie, because I still had a little bit of dark chocolate in there, because otherwise I think I'd have gone absolutely nuts. So really dark chocolate, so very low in sugar, but it was like my sanity. But I literally spent 2.5 months on predominantly bananas. I had a few grapes and some watermelon, and as I said, a little bit of dark chocolate, but predominantly my diet was like 95% bananas. I was just eating bananas all day long. I still eat bananas every day. This is 5 years ago that I did that, and still to this day I eat bananas every day. So it didn't turn me off bananas, for anyone out there that's thinking, oh, surely you'd never want to look at another banana again. But now I can't provide you with proof of any of this. If you know me, you'll know that this happened. You would have seen me live through it. When I did my banana fast, I lost a lot of weight. So I'm at the moment, I'm not a large person, like 5'9", thereabouts, and I weigh normally 67 kilos. My base weight used to be 64 kilos, so this is prior to all of this. And I went from 64 down to 51 kilos, so I lost a lot of weight eating bananas and a few other things, a few other fruits. So 2.5 months, bananas only predominantly, and then I reintroduced vegetables. Okay, so it was a reintroduction of one at a time. And my thought process through all of this was, I kept listening to the doctors tell me that I had this incurable disease, but they don't know what causes it. And my brain is trying to figure out the logic of that. How can you know a definitive thing such as incurable when you don't know what causes it? So I stopped listening to the so-called professionals, and that were looking at me like this. I had a rheumatologist that would look at my back, and I had a gastroenterologist that would look at my tummy, and it's just ridiculous. They need to step back, take a look at the whole thing. I'll get back to the story in a minute, but one thing I'd like to point out is a lot of people think that there's something or someone out there that's going to fix them. And I was, I guess, one of those people. I just kept thinking, oh, it's outside of me. Oh, it's just unfortunate. This is, oh, it's some genetic weakness, or it's, you know, oh, woe is me. I'm the victim, And, I'm not trying to downplay some people that are, just actually just born with something, But for the most part, I think the majority of people with issues, health issues, it's generally earned, and I know that's going to trigger some people, especially if you've got health issues. But it's generally earned, and if I look back at my life, I know I earned those diseases. I had not a good diet, not enough exercise. When I was starting out, I was exercising all the time. I was very at the height of my physical, sort of peak. And once the back problems came on, it hurt all the time, So I sort of got into this habit of I couldn't exercise. And then that just became a habit. So once I probably could, or at least there was something I could do, I just didn't anymore because I was, not in the habit of exercising. I was in the victim mentality where, oh, it's just too hard. I'll just take the drugs and take the painkillers and shut life out, And, there's a time and a place for medication, for painkillers. If you're in some serious pain, you may need some relief. There's only so much that you can take. But with the understanding that I've got now, you want to avoid it at all, as much as you can, because long term, it's a very short term fix, but long term repercussions are not good. Anyway, so back to the story. My thought process for all of this is, is it incurable if they don't know what causes it? And so I decided to get healthy or die trying. I thought I'm going to figure out what it is. The back problem, I thought, well, I've clearly got some damage in my back. That's something I'll just have to learn to sort of live with, or try to heal over time. It's not something that's going to change straight away. The gut problem, that was a dilemma, because obviously if you can't eat, you're going to die. So that one I had to fix, and I had to figure out what it was that was doing it. So by flipping that diet on its head and going high nutrient, low calorie, and I understand that some people wouldn't be able to do that. Some people don't do well with fruit. From out of all of this, I've developed this understanding that there is no blueprint for the human being. You've got to figure out what your user manual is, and once you've got your user manual, then you can focus on what you need to get healthy. For most people, there's fairly general blueprint of balanced diet, exercise, good sleep, and good thought. And also, a lot of people poo-poo it, but there is a big spiritual side to all of this. That's something I'll get into in other videos. But the general blueprint is that when it comes down to dietary requirements for each individual, again, there is no hard and fast rule. For me, it made sense to go high nutrient, low calorie, because I'd obviously been starving myself for a long time. All right, and this is where it gets to toxicity and deficiency being the root cause for most dis-ease. Okay, toxicity and deficiency. It's almost always boils down to something that's that simple. Have you had toxic things going in, or have you been missing out on something? And if it's either or a combination of those, you're generally going to present with some sort of symptoms that are not conducive to good health. Alright, and that's your body trying to either pull nutrients from places that you don't want to lose them from, and causing illness or dis-ease in that regard, or if you've got toxicity, your body's going to try and expel the toxins. So so for me, I started with this banana fast, and then I reintroduced vegetables, one at a time, so I could identify if there are any trigger foods, and then eventually I reintroduced grains and legumes, but not gluten-containing grains. I decided to leave wheat out. So when I say grains, it was predominantly just brown rice, so as little processing as possible. And I remained on a diet which was fruit, vegetables, and grains and legumes, so a plant-based diet. Did have a little bit of honey in there, so I wouldn't say I was vegan. Vegan is it's a lifestyle choice. It's not just a dietary thing, So I was still wearing my leather shoes and a leather belt and woolen jumpers, and so it was a plant-based diet. And a lot of the studies show more plant-focused diets as being the most health conducive overall for humans. Again, there isn't a blueprint that says this is how it should be for everybody, but I think for the most part, more natural whole plant foods, organic plant foods, are more conducive to health. So I remained on a plant-based diet for 2.5 years. Now, after 2.5 years, I started to lose weight again. Alright, so this comes back to toxicity and deficiency. So I'm sure this is going to probably trigger any vegans if they are watching, but I got to a point where I became deficient, and I'm not saying that it was the diet. Perhaps I wasn't doing it correctly, because at the same time I've got 2 children, and I'm working full time, and I've got a dog, and I've got responsibilities, and being on a plant-based diet is very you have to be very organised, very planned, and so there were some meals that I would just either sort of I wouldn't be preparing every single meal from scratch from whole plant foods, which is probably the way it needs to be done. So if you can do it properly, I'm sure you can maintain. But I started to lose a lot of weight again, and I didn't really fancy going back down to a low weight. So I actually reintroduced meat, and very minimal dairy. So still, now I eat pretty much anything, but I pretty much don't drink milk. I have very little dairy, occasional bit of cheese. I was having a spoonful of Greek yogurt every day with my bananas in the morning. I've sort of stopped that for the last couple of months. But other than that, no dairy. Very rarely have wheat. So I think a lot of my problems probably came from overconsumption of dairy and wheat. But anyway, so here I am 5 years on. I haven't taken any medication for that amount of time. The happiest and healthiest I've ever been. I don't have any mental issues anymore. I don't have any health concerns anymore. Actually, to go on top of the issues that I had, I also had a rash in my armpits and in my groin region, which was known as pityriasis versicolor, and I was told that was like this fungal or bacterial infection, and it would just never go away. It was always there. So for a long, I reckon I had that for 4, 5, maybe 6 years, and so I stopped, feeling comfortable taking my shirt off at the pool with my kids and things like that. So it was just, I was a sickly person. I was riddled with health problems. I was taking medication for this, that, and the other, and they were going to have to change the drug regimen after a couple of years because the drugs that the only drugs they found that were working for me showed high risk of cancer after 2 years in young males. It's like, well, geez, what do you do? So, I realised that it wasn't a good trajectory. I started off with a back problem. I did everything they told me to do, ended up with a gut problem. Kept doing everything they wanted me to do, and I just felt horrible, and I was going downhill. Depression, anger. I used to be an angry, bitter person. As a kid, I was high on life all the time, really happy, um, just energetic. I would bring everybody else's energy up. And then once all of this stuff started, and they had me on these medications, and I was just a miserable, depressed, twat, really, angry, always laying my problems on others. Like people would be, oh, how are you today? Oh, I'm not very good, And I was an energy vampire, And I'm back to the old me, I'm like I said, the happiest and healthiest I've ever been. Well, for my adult life at least. I'm in the best headspace I've ever been. I'm happy every day, and I'm grateful every day that I was able to wake up, that I was able to find enjoyment in life again. I'm very lucky, and that's why I'm doing this. I'd like to share my experience with others, and what I've learned. And like I said, the biggest key here is that there isn't someone out there that's going to save you, and there isn't something out there that's going to save you. There's nothing out there that's going to fix you. The only thing that's going to fix you is you. There's no easy answer. People are always looking for an easy answer, but it's a long, hard road, especially if you've worked your way into severe toxicity and deficiency. It's a long way out, and for me, with such an unbalanced diet and lifestyle for so long, that at the age of 27, I did all this, the fasting and so on. So it started with back problems at 18, and it was 9 years of just miserable health and trying to work through all of it on medication. I remember there was a period of time for at least 6 or 12 months where I reckon I was taking around 1,200 milligrams of tramadol every single day just to be able to function and go to work. Now, I've since I'd given up all of the drugs, I had a bad back spasm and needed some pain relief for a couple of days. So out of the last 5 years, I've probably taken maybe 4 or 5 tramadol, when I've just had I've tweaked my back playing on the trampoline with the kids or something. I've done something to the nerves, and take a tramadol for a day, and that's it. But it spaces me out, and I take a 50 gram now. Well, not now, but when I took it, a 50 gram, and I was out for 24 hours, like just on a different on a cloud, floating around somewhere. It's just insane. And to think that I used to have to take so much, so many years ago, just to function. No wonder I was depressed and angry and sapping energy from people, because I was at a real low point, and it's not fun. So if you've got health issues out there, I really feel for you, because I've been there. Maybe not to your extent, and I'm not trying to compete with anyone here. A lot of people wear their illness is like a badge of honour. Like, yeah, I'm sicker than you, and it's like this ego thing for them. You shouldn't be proud of your illnesses. Some people are straight out with it. They, oh yeah, I've got this and this and this, and it's like it's a competition with other people. For them, it's like, oh, I've got all these. You should feel sorry for me, or I'm worse off than you. That's not a good thing, people. So I hope you've gotten something from this. I hope it's not been too much babble. I personally enjoy long form content. I used to watch the short videos, and now I like to hear the reasoning behind things and listen to people. So hopefully this is interesting for somebody. But biggest advice I can give to you is is don't let anybody else write your story. You need to write your own story. And I used to let people write my story. You've got an incurable disease, and you're going to have to take medication the rest of your life. And that's a really shitty story. And especially as a young man, I should have been at the absolute peak of my life. I basically lost most of my 20s to pretty much did. It wasn't until my late 20s where I started to come out of that hell. It wasn't until I was 30 that I was really starting to be vibrant again. Now that I'm 33, I'm probably the best I've ever been. So I've been seeing a chiropractor twice a week for 3 years, maybe. And so that he keeps my nervous system in check, keeps my back functioning, and keeps me functioning. And then the dietary side of stuff is me, not being an absolute idiot, and reading the labels. If you don't understand the ingredients on it, don't eat it. If it's got numbers on there, you're not meant to eat numbers, right? If you don't understand what you're reading, or there's a number, they're trying to hide something. So, get more whole foods, so fruit and vegetables, preferably raw. When you start to cook these things, you cook out a lot of the nutrients, I forget the words. Anyway, raw is better, but you need a bit of balance as well. There's no quick fix. You need to address your diet. You also need to think about sleep. Sleep is very important. A lot of people are on their phones all the way up until bed. For me, it's quite late tonight, and I've wanted to make this video, so I'm on the screens far too late. But normally, I normally don't go to bed till sort of between 11 and 12. But I'll shut down all the screens for at least a half an hour before, and pick up my guitar. All right, and I sit there and play guitar. It helps me to clear my thoughts. I normally play in the dark, so I turn the lights off and allows my brain to shut down. And my so when we have the screens, the blue light from the screens, it puts your brain in the wrong state. So I think it puts it into like alpha state or whatever. Don't quote me on that. I'm not a specialist in these things. But it puts your brain into the wrong state, which is not conducive to sleep. So the blue light is it's setting your nervous system to release hormones as if it's the day. All right, so it's activating things that should be well and truly calming down and shutting down. So I have people ask me about sleepy time tea. Oh, is this tea going to help me sleep at night? What's your bedtime routine? If you think that a bag of bloody sleepy tea is going to send you to sleep, there is no quick fix to these things, people. It's a series. It's a holistic view. You've got to take a step back and look at the whole thing. So health is achievable. It just takes determination and it takes attention. You can't just look. If you want to keep taking the medication, by all means take it. I'm not a medical professional. I'm sure there's some diseases out there that you probably require medication. I'm sure there's some that you just can't fix. Right? There's some states of being that perhaps are too far along in order to eradicate medication. I was lucky that I was still young enough to have the chance to fight it, all right, and to reverse the damage that I've done to myself. But there is generally no quick fix. There's no magic pill that's going to magic it all better. The pharmaceutical industry is not there to heal you. That I can tell you. Right? They are a corporation that is focused on a bottom line, so they need you between healthy and dead. If you're healthy, they don't make money off you. If you're dead, they don't make money off you. It's everywhere in the middle, they make money off you. So my personal experience is that the medication made me worse. It didn't make me dead and it didn't make me better. It just kept me needing more and more of it. So detoxing my body is what got me there. So anyway, I'm going to wrap it up there. I was intending to talk about the current state of the health scare that's going on in the world, because again, it's people are worried about something that's very easily explainable. It's toxicity and deficiency. It's cycles, but probably done enough of triggering people for one night, so we won't go there. Anyway, thanks for listening to me waffle on. I hope you enjoyed enjoyed what I had to say and enjoyed some of the information. Like I said, there's no quick fix. If you've got health issues, it takes hard work to get back to health. If you're a relatively healthy person, then you'll know that it takes a little bit of effort to maintain health. So there is no quick fix, and there's nothing outside of you that's going to fix you. It all comes from within. Alright, so empower yourself with some knowledge, and write your own story. Thanks for watching.